All right, so today we're diving into something I think pretty crucial and maybe not something everyone thinks about right away.
Yeah.
It's how heat exposure, like really being out in the heat, can affect our health.
Right.
And not just, the obvious stuff we all know about, like heat stroke.
Uh-huh.
We're going deeper.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our listeners, they're sharp. They want to get to the heart of things fast. And that's what we're doing here,
Exactly.
giving everyone a clear picture of this honestly growing health concern
Mm-hmm.
that's tied to, well, climate change, right?
You got it.
So this new research we're looking at,
Mm-hmm.
it really digs into this idea that being exposed to heat for a long time
Mm-hmm.
can actually make our bodies age faster
Right.
at like the most basic level,
Yeah.
like our cells.
Wow.
So yeah, we're not just talking about feeling hot and bothered during a heat wave. It's
It,
way more than that.
this is about like long-term effects, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So to really break this down, we've got some great sources here.
There's this article by Alejandra Barunda in Pasted Text. It came out just this past March 2025.
Okay.
And there's also a briefing document, sort of background info from back in October 2023.
Gotcha.
Both of these are really focused on this one study. It was published in Science Advances.
Interesting.
And that's what we're going to unpack
That's
today.
something.
What's the evidence? What does it mean for our bodies? And what does it mean for our health way down the line?
Sounds good.
So first things first, what did this study actually find? Like, what was the big takeaway?
Well, the big finding, and it is pretty remarkable, is that being exposed to high temperatures for a long time can actually speed up how our bodies age, biologically speaking.
Ooh.
I mean, they looked at older adults living in Phoenix, Arizona, it's hot there all the time,
Oh, yeah.
compared them to older adults in Seattle, Washington, much milder climate.
Okay, so two very different places when it comes to heat.
Right, and what they saw was that folks in Phoenix, they were showing signs of aging, like in their cells and stuff, that were about 14 months ahead of those in Seattle.
14 months.
Yeah, about
That's more than a year.
It is.
It might not seem like a huge difference, but I guess it adds up over time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's what that speeding up means for our health down the road.
Right.
Deborah Carr, she's a gerontologist, studies aging at Boston University.
Okay.
She said this difference, even just over a year, it puts a tremendous strain not only on their own lives and the lives of their families and caregivers, but also has a larger societal impact.
Yeah, I mean, think about it.
So it's not just about how old we feel. It's a whole bigger picture.
Definitely.
But how does heat do that? Like, what's actually happening in our bodies that makes us age faster because of heat?
Well, the study looked at this thing called epigenetic aging. It's kind of complicated, but basically, as we age, these little chemical tags attach to our DNA.
DNA, like our genetic code?
Exactly, and these tags, they're called methylation. They don't change the DNA itself,
Okay.
but they act like instructions, telling the genes what to do, kind of like turning them on or off.
So the genes are still there, but heat messes with how they work.
Yeah, the lead researcher on this, Yoon Choi from the University of Southern California,
Yeah.
she described it really well. She said DNA methylation is like a light switch for genes so it can turn them on and off.
Oh, I get it. So as we age, these switches are flipping, and heat's making them flip faster.
Precisely.
And I guess it's not just heat, right?
No, not at all.
I mean, we know things like not eating well, not exercising enough, stress.
Oh, yeah.
Even air pollution can mess with these switches and speed up aging.
Exactly. And now we can add heat to that list, thanks to this study.
It's like a whole bunch of things can make our bodies age faster.
Yeah, and heat's a pretty big one, actually.
Oh,
Yoon Choi even said the effect of long-term heat exposure is similar to the effect of smoking and drinking.
wow, that puts it in perspective. Smoking and drinking, those are serious, so heat's up there too.
Definitely.
Okay, so if our bodies are aging faster because of heat, what does that mean for our health down the line?
Well, Deborah Carr pointed out that research already shows that premature aging is linked to a bunch of age-related health problems showing up earlier, like dementia,
No.
diabetes, cardiovascular disease, heart problems.
Right.
So if heat's pushing our biological clock forward, it's likely we'll see these conditions popping up earlier in people's lives.
And probably more often in places that are already really hot.
Yeah, most likely, yeah.
It's not just about one person's health either, is it?
No.
It's about their families,
Hmm.
their jobs, the healthcare system.
Yeah.
Carr brought up how even if someone can't work for a year because of health problems, that can have tremendous impacts on their life and their finances.
It really can.
And this is all tied to climate change, right?
Absolutely.
It's not like heat's going away. It's probably getting worse.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Choi even said in the article that climate change is making heat waves more intense and long-lasting in many parts of the U.S. I mean, think about where you live. Have you noticed hotter, longer summers?
Yeah, I think a lot of people have.
This research is saying those summers could be affecting us more than we realize.
And the National Climate Assessment predicts a big jump in the number of extreme heat days across the country by the middle of the century.
So this isn't just a problem for, like, some people in some places. It's going to affect a lot of us.
Right.
The study looked at older adults, so I'm guessing they're especially vulnerable to this, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, as we get older, our bodies just aren't as good at regulating temperature. We might not sweat as much, less blood flow to the skin for cooling, and some medications can even interfere with how our body handles heat.
So for older folks, their bodies are already working harder, and then you add extreme heat on top of that.
Exactly.
That's a lot for the body to deal with.
It is, but this isn't just an older person problem, though.
Oh, so younger people are affected too.
Yeah, Robert Mead, he's a heat expert from Harvard.
Okay.
He had a great analogy for this. He said it's like trying to tread water and someone hands you a brick.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Like our bodies are working to stay balanced, and heat just adds this extra weight, this extra strain.
So it makes everything harder no matter how old you are.
Exactly.
So where do we go from here?
Well, Robert Mead said we need to get better at figuring out how much heat each person is actually exposed to.
Because not everyone experiences heat the same way.
Right.
Like someone working outside all day is going to be hit way harder than someone in an air-conditioned office.
Exactly. So future research should look at how heat exposure in our homes and neighborhoods affects our health over time.
That makes sense.
And if we can understand that better, we might be able to figure out how heat damages our health at the cellular level.
And maybe even figure out how to prevent or reverse that damage.
Hopefully.
That'd be huge.
Sure it would.
Speaking of heat, the article mentioned Phoenix specifically.
Oh yeah, Phoenix is a prime example.
Like, how hot are we talking?
Well, last year alone, they had over 188 days where the temperature was above 90 degrees Fahrenheit.
What?
And over 140 days above 100 degrees.
That's intense.
Yeah, it's that kind of prolonged exposure that the study is talking about, the kind that can lead to those long-term changes in our bodies.
There's also another expert mentioned in the article, Tom Clanton.
Oh, right.
What did he have to say about all this?
Well, he's a physiologist, a heat expert from the University of Florida.
Okay.
He said this study kind of helps explain something we've already seen, which is the link between heat exposure and long-term heart problems.
Heart problems.
Yeah, so he's suggesting that heat might be aging our hearts faster, making them more vulnerable to issues down the line.
Wow. So to sum all this up for our listeners, what's the big takeaway here?
The key message is that being exposed to high temperatures for a long time is a big deal.
Yeah.
It stresses our bodies and can speed up the aging process, like deep down in our cells.
It's not just about feeling hot. It's about our health in the long run.
Right, and the research is saying the effects could be as bad as smoking.
And with climate change, this isn't going away. It's probably going to get worse.
Yeah, for a lot of people.
So, listener, this is something to think about.
It really is.
As temperatures rise, as we see more heat waves,
What does this mean for how we live, how we plan for the future?
both for ourselves and for society as a whole.
It's a big question, but it's one we need to start thinking about.
Think about where you live, how hot it gets, and how that might affect your health years down the line.
It's not just about today, it's about the future.